The fruits are ripe, the fruits of our labor, and the harvesters have been sent already with the sickle and the pruning hooks at hand. The fruits are ripe, the fruits of our labor, and the harvesters have gone forth with the sickle and the pruning hooks. Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. A blessed love, blessed Sabbath. In our today's reasoning is all about culture difference. Rastafari. We're gonna start with the book of Isaiah, chapter 36, verse 11. Then Elikim, Shabana, and Joaha said to the Rabashaken, please speak to your servants in Aramic, for we understand it, and do not speak to us in Hebrew, in the hearing of the people who are on the wall. But the Rabashaken said, has my master sent me to your master and to you to speak these words? And not to the men who sit on the wall, who will eat and drink their own waste with you. Then the Rabashaken stood and called out with a loud voice in Hebrew and said, hear the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. Envoys shall come out of Kemet. Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands unto the Most High God. That's the culture. The culture of the Kemet education, or the culture of Kemet educates prince and princess to go out there not to be served, but to serve. Moses, Yehoshua, and the prophets, hence liberating the soul from the fritters of the body. Yehoshua riding on the donkey, entering Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the inner temple of peace. We read Matthew chapter 23, verse 9 to 11. Do not call anyone on earth your father, for one is your father, he who is in heaven. And do not be called teachers, for one is your teacher, the Christ, the Messiah. But he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. Those were the teachings of Egypt. You enter in the universities of Kemet, they make you a prince, they make you kings, but not kings to go and dominate other people, but to go and serve. By doing this is freeing your body, which is the donkey. You have to ride on your body, liberating the vibrations of the mind and the soul. We get back to Matthew chapter 5, verse 20. No, from verse 17. Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For assuredly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, one joint or one title will by no means pass from the law till all is fulfilled. Whoever therefore breaks one of these list of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. That was a guaranteed for you to be a student in Kemet. You had to swear that whatever you learn there, you're gonna teach it rightly without breaking the law, the same law that was given to Moses. Okay, we continue. You know, these gadgets sometimes they bring ish situations. We get back, we were talking about the law. So Yeshua is testifying that what he learned in Kemet was not to break or change the law, but fulfill it to the fullest. We get back to the other side, and we have understood that Aramic, in Kemet, they were called the Hebrews. And Hebrews means he who crosses over to the side of the light, from the side of darkness. But when we go to the other side, we see they are called Jews. So there's a big difference between a Jew and a Hebrew, according to my understanding. As we have read in the book of Isaiah, there are those people who are confessing there and telling Shabana and Elikim, saying, don't speak to us in Hebrew. Seemingly that they are not Hebrews, but they are Jews, and they speak Aramic language. We get back to where we were. Because there have been a big dispute between the teachings of Yeshua and the teachings of Paul, who was Saul. You should know that Saul was a Roman citizen. He was a Jew, but he was brought up in the diaspora of the Romans. And that's why Saul was commissioned by the authority of the Roman regime to go and persecute the disciples of Yeshua in Jerusalem. It's in the book of the book of Acts chapter 9. If you read it through, Acts chapter 9, you'll find where they have an encounter with Yeshua. And he was asked, Saul, why do you persecute the church? At that time, it was not even known. There was nothing like Christianity. It was just known as the church, but not Christianity. Later, when the Romans conquered the church and took it over, that's where the name Christianity came out from. We see, let me read a little bit for you. We read the book of Acts chapter 21, verses 20 to 25. Because the book of Acts chapter 9, Acts chapter 10, Acts chapter 11, Acts chapter 13, it's all about persecution. Here is after even Saul was converted when he encountered Joshua. But we'll read there later. But first, let's read Acts chapter 21, verse 20 to 25. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord. And they said to him, You see, brother, how many myriads of Jews there are who have believed, and they are all zealous for the law, not for religion, but the law. Which law? The law of Moses. The law that Moses had learned in Kemet. The law that Joshua had learned in Kemet. But they have been informed about you, that you teach all the Jews who are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, nor to walk accordingly to the customs. What then? The assembly must certainly meet, for they will hear that you have come. Now this is Paul had gone to Jerusalem, and now they are catching up with him and telling him, you have done a great job. Which job? The one that he was commissioned by Joshua to do. Because when he encountered Joshua, Joshua sent him back to the Gentiles, and he told him, go and preach, go and free the souls of the prisoners of the Gentiles and the Jews who had already fled away because of the persecution. Then, what then? Therefore, do what we tell you. Now he's been told in Jerusalem to do what he's been told in Jerusalem. You have 4 men who have taken a vow. Which vow? The vow of the Nazarenes. If you go to the book of Numbers, chapter 6, the vow of the Nazarene. Here then next, take them and be purified with them and pay their expenses so that they may shave their heads. And that all may know that those things of which they were informed concerning you are nothing, but that you yourself also walk orderly and keep the law. But concerning the Gentiles who believe, we have written and decided that they should observe no such things. You hear here, they have been warned, the Gentiles, those who have been converted by Paul, they have been told not to observe the customs, the law, as it was in the days of Moses, as it was stated by Joshua. You see the difference? Except that they should keep themselves from things offered to idols, from blood, from the things stranded, and from sexual immorality. Then Paul took the men, and the next day, having been purified with them, entered the temple of announcing the expiration of the days of purification, at which time an offering should be made for each one of them. Jah Rastafari. The culture of Rome dominates the people into subjects of masters and slaves. Thus, we see Saul, who was a highly educated crusader of the Roman regime, sent to Jerusalem in the persecution of the disciples of Joshua. On the encounter with Joshua, his mission is diverted and sent back to the very authority that had commissioned him, that of the Gentiles, to liberate their souls from the prisons through a thorn in his flesh. Jah Rastafari. That's why Paul said, there is a thorn in my flesh. What was the thorn? The thorn was what he had learned in the university there back in Rome was contrary to what he learned about Joshua. And because he was a persecutor, imagine somebody who is highly educated being told to live simple, to live a humble life. That is a thorn in the flesh. The thorn that kills the ego, as the education of Clement. Till today, that's why you say, the fruits are ripe. And the harvesters are already on earth. The harvest is already, is continuing, happening each and every day. Jah Rastafari. One love, peace, and togetherness. Yes, Jah is faithful to fulfill his due course on earth. Rastafari. Sila.